See that thing on my belt? Grab it. Whatever you do, don't let go.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome one and all to the high-flying circus of the Iceborne Lance! With a brand new expansion coming up soon and the return of G-Rank and Groucho Marx classes going by the name of Master Rank, we have some hefty preparation to do of our supply stocks and even more hefty thinking to do about which weapon we want to use, which one to commit all of our time to, our effort, our sweat, blood, and tears, and our love! Today, I'm going to tell you exactly why in Iceborne, that weapon should be the lance. First off, let's have a look at how the weapon is changing in Iceborne. There are two new moves that are accessible from a new stance. The stance being the clutch guard position, which blocks exactly like your normal shield guard, but your left hand holds the clutch claw out instead of your lance. This is exactly what allows both of your new moves, the clutch counter and the Slinger Burst. But first, I'd like to focus on the Slinger Burst. These burst shots have been added to a number of weapons, and for most of them, they give a way to finish off a difficult combo. For Dual Blaze, it just gives you a strong evasive option that uses no stamina, but for Lance, you get the power to burst shot Slinger ammo from the safety of a shield, blocking the entire time. But the burst Slinger shots aren't even that good. Yeah, sure, they suck if you use things like rocks or red pits, but what do you expect? A weapon of mass destruction sitting on the floor of every zone waiting to be picked up? That'd be totally broken. If, however, you find or even create the correct ammo, a Slinger Burst shot can be absolutely deadly to a monster or even be responsible for some significant openings for significant damage. Piercing pods, for example, is the most common Slinger ammo to drop from monsters do this. Thorn pods fire out a load of thorns, all but guaranteeing a stun, and scatternuts have a ridiculously high flinch chance. That's right, scatternuts, the things that just hang off of trees in some places. I would expect the same effect from crystal burst as well, considering it serves the same purpose as scatternuts on a base level, just on different maps. Overall, if you find these ammo types, or pretty much any Slinger ammo that has any effect other than tiny damage, or I guess lighting up a monster, I'm looking at you, Bright Moss, this shot can have incredible value, and you can use it entirely from the safety of your little shield-based home. The second move you have access to in the clutch guard position is the Clutch Claw counter. After activating the ability, you will enter a parry stance, very similar to Valor mode, sheathed from Generations, draining your stamina, but thankfully not your health. The timing window from full stamina to empty on this attack is absolutely massive, even more so with a skill like Marathon Runner maxed out, but you absolutely do not want to run out of stamina while trying to counter a monster's attack, especially considering the fact that when you use this move, you are literally trying to get the monster to hit you. If, and hopefully when, the monster does collide with you, the greatest thing in Monster Hunter World happens. You tank the hit, fire the claw out at the closest body part to you at the time of the attack, and pull yourself in. Okay, so you have a clutch claw. Who gives a crap? Language, Timmy! What an asshole, am I right? It's not just a normal clutch claw, though. With the normal clutch claw, if a monster does anything even resembling an attack that involves moving the body part you are attached to, you get flung off into oblivion, and I don't mean Elder Scrolls. With the Lance's clutch claw counter, your attachment to the monster is entirely uninterruptible, meaning the monster cannot knock you off quite as easily. There is a super dangerous component to that, though, as the monster's attacks still deal damage to you, leaving you with an effect that is pretty much just Rocksteady Mantle.
We're not so different, you and I.
You can, of course, jump off manually if you're close to death, and making that decision is paramount to mastering this attack. The other thing you have to be careful with is your stamina, as this does drain while you are attached to a monster with the Clutch Claw. Considering the Clutch Claw counter stance itself also drains stamina, if you start the move too early, you'll just find yourself falling off of a monster into an inevitably painful attack. This is the main reason for the timing window to be important, especially as you don't choose your point of attachment and you may need to use stamina to move around the monster. It's extremely hard to explain how using this attack feels, though. Even seeing it on screen doesn't do it any justice, but the feeling of timing it right before getting hit, flying up onto a monster's face and just ripping your lance through it, is just amazing. Doing it back to back is even better. This move, combined with a Slinger Burst shot, both of which being behind the unbreakable wall of the Lance shield, makes for a really fun addition to the Lance gameplay experience. And that's what it truly is. All of the changes come as an addition to the Lance, not a replacement, and they come in such a neat little package that fits perfectly with the Lance's pre-existing kit, and gives more options to the playstyle that already exists. And honestly, even if a few months from now I settle on a different weapon as my main, Iceborne's Lance will forever hold the title of Most Improved to me. Old Lance was fine, not the worst weapon, but not the best weapon. Serviceable, and it's fit its role. Relentlessness. The Lance's main advantage is go, 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 don't stop mentality, being able to stick to a monster like glue. These new attacks simply add to that and give new options for ways to pursue, never stopping. Lance in Iceborne is just the complete package, an offensive and defensive powerhouse, a counter, and the team play potential is absolutely endless. I talked about the Clutch Claw counter and how neat and fun it is to do, but because the Lance is one of the weapons that does a proper tenderize attack, you are actually significantly benefiting not only yourself, but your team every time you pull off the counter in multiplayer. In a proper fight, you can keep every tenderizable body part completely tenderized the entire time if you play well. Not to mention the value of the Slinger Burst with something like Scatternuts, but behind a shield. You could legitimately use your shield to protect yourself while you flinch the monster out of hitting your teammates. You can now legitimately be a Monster Hunter Knight. And that right there is the feel of it. That, I think, is what really drags me down into the heart of the Lance mentality now. Obviously, once you take to the air, the whole Knight thing goes a bit anime, so maybe not classic medieval knights, but the counter, the ability to defend your teammates way more so than before, and the actual tenderize attack itself all add together to make the Lance just feel more like I should be called Sir Cotton Grabbane of Astera instead of just, hey, you! And the best part of the new moves is that they really do just flow into the Lance and mix with the old moves. But you're pretty much just using the counter. Yeah, maybe I am using it a bit too much, but that's because I like it a lot. You still want to do a lot of poking. But the Claw Guard is not only a great defensive option, but you should use it to at least keep up the tenderization on important parts like heads or tails, depending on the monster. So just flip a coin. Can somebody get him out of here? Where Lance sits now is also an interesting position. At least as far as I'm concerned, Lance now feels like a totally complete weapon. Of course, in the future, we will see more Monster Hunter games, and I would be absolutely astonished if we didn't see the Lance return. So that begs the question, where would Lance go from here? As a whole, gamers always want something to keep changing, to evolve, to avoid it going stale, even if the thing that could go stale is incredibly fun in its own right. It's how you keep people engaged, and right now the Lance feels so perfect to me that the worry is that adding anything more to the Lance in the future might only serve to make it worse. There are a ton of things that could happen, like different types of pokes, maybe an actual combo for the slashes, some sort of shield-focused attack moves, but most of these would just end up adding and adding to the move pool until it feels like you might as well be using a sword and shield. To me, if I had to choose one change I want to see in the future Lance based on Iceborne's additions, the choice is easy, and it is something based on something you might not expect. Small monster jousting. Yeah, okay, maybe it is a little bit silly. Maybe it's a lot silly, but it sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Just think about it. This would essentially just be sitting in the normal Lance charge position, just on the back of a small monster. Imagine Lance eventually evolving to the point of being the mounted combat weapon. How fucking cool would that be? Obviously, it would have to be limited. You would need to be in large areas, and you would probably only be able to have your mount around for a short period of time, but that would be such a neat way to continue on the mechanics from Iceborne with Lance, using Lance. It would be a change that you would absolutely benefit from taking advantage of, but that doesn't make the old moves obsolete either. This is what I'm lobbying for. This is what I want to come from Lance in the distant future. Just let me ride a popo with my Lance sticking out. Alright everyone, these have been all of the reasons that I think the Lance just might be the best weapon in Iceborne. Which weapon do you think will be the best? What changes could you see coming to them in the future? Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the little notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. This is the brand new outro to tell you all the things that you do that we love, so let's start with something simple and say, oh, we love your eyes. When they're watching us play video games, when we make a bunch of jokes that are kinda lame, or when they gaze upon our failures as we try to kill the monsters or important news about the Kingdom Animalia. Rage, Continent, Hollow, we're all here, talking about the things you want to hear. So if you want to be the first to hear, like and subscribe and the bell and we'll cheer. Some of you are patrons even though we are all the noobs and you're the pros. There's nothing we can do to thank you. No, really, there's nothing we could possibly do. Goodbye.